Okay. Mighty told me to start, so I'm going to start. And I'm going to start with the dry stuff. Get that out of the way. So I am going to be beginning a residency in clinical pastoral education in September. So, which of course leads to the question of, well, what the heck is that? So, this is from the website of the hospital where I'll be doing the residency. It's called Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center. It's the only trauma level 1 hospital in Oregon, and it's right in downtown Portland. So, what is CPE anyway? It brings theological students and ministers of all faiths, pastors, priests, rabbis, imams, Wiccan priestesses. I'm going to guess by now humanist leaders, into supervised encounters with persons in crisis. And through CPE, students develop new awareness of themselves as persons and of the needs of those to whom they minister. They gain a new understanding of ministry through theological reflection on specific human situations, and they develop skills in interpersonal and interprofessional relationships. And these are some of the things that CPE students do. You visit people in the hospital. You have peer group seminars. You have verbatim case conferences, and boy, are those fun. A verbatim is when you do a hospital visit with someone, and then immediately when you come out of the room, you sit down and you try to write down verbatim what your conversation was. What they said, what you said, what they said, what you said. And then you get to go into class with your peers and you present your verbatim, and everybody gets to pick at you. Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that? Why didn't you say this? You seem to talk a lot. Were you nervous? What were you nervous about? It's fun, but very helpful. Patient care conferences and interdisciplinary team meetings. So meetings with social workers, meetings with ethics committees, meetings with medical staff. You examine attitudes and values, as well as cultural, theological, and philosophical assumptions about life and ministry. So I'm going to be going from an Episcopal parish, where by and large everyone to whom I minister shares my faith, into a setting where, I won't say particularly in Portland, but probably more in Portland than in St. Louis, I'll encounter a lot of people who are part of the nuns. They have no affiliation with any organized religion. But still, I am there to serve them and to be with them through whatever they're going through. So there's a little bit of a shift that has to happen for me. So, every Episcopalian I go into the room, I'll probably breathe a sigh and say, oh, I'm home. And explore professional and personal identity while receiving individual and group supervision from a CPE certified educator or a certified educator candidate. And actually, the head supervisor at Emmanuel is retiring this spring. So my supervision will come from the new head person, who's been there for a long time as the current head's junior, and then 2 guys who are seeking certification to be a CPE educator. And I got to interview with all of them back in December, and I thought they were great. So CPE Residency is specifically designed to assist graduates of the program to become certified by the Association of Professional Chaplains or other associations. There's one for Catholic chaplains, there's one for Jewish chaplains, there's other groups, but the Association of Professional Chaplains is the one that I will seek certification from. And I'm going to skip a couple. This is from the Association of Professional Chaplains. And if anyone wants to actually read it, I will give you a copy. But I just put it on here to show you all the things that you have to show that you have proficiency in to get certified. So they don't mess around. And so going back to the top, I mean, the biggies are you have to be in good standing with your faith organization. And you either have to be ordained or be recognized by your faith organization with an equivalency of ordination, which can be kind of tough. You have to have an accredited degree from undergrad, from theological education, and you have to do your 4 units of CPE.
Looks like your check has to clear too.
Yes, your check does have to clear, of course. And after you do CPE, I think you have to have 2,000 hours of work as a chaplain. Can be a volunteer or a paid, but you have to have those hours of experience. So it's kind of like where Jim Purdy hired me to come to St. Peter's before I was a priest. I had just become a transitional deacon. So I worked for 6 months as a deacon and then became a priest. So someone would hire me to serve as a chaplain with the understanding that I was in the process of becoming certified.
Do you get any credit for the work that you've done?
I get no credit for parish ministry. Nope. Yeah.
So when these people of unknown faith backgrounds, do you present yourself as, I am Kelly and I'm an Episcopal priest? Do you wave a collar? Or do you just come in and say, I'm Kelly?
I would come in and say, hi, I'm Kelly, I'm the chaplain, or I'm one of the chaplains here at Emmanuel. I suspect in most days I won't wear my collar. And I will leave it up to people if they ask me. I will certainly tell them that I'm an Episcopal priest. But if they don't ask me, if they don't need to know, then yeah.
Did you pick Portland because of this educational facility to get your qualifications there?
I like the facility. I picked Portland because I used to live in Portland. That's the town where I lived, called Lake Oswego, which was about 10 minutes from downtown Portland. I did not live on the lake. My apartment was above the Willamette River, though, which was very cool. This is the Lake Oswego Farmers Market. And all that is just trucked in from local farms in the Willamette Valley. So that's the main reason why I picked Portland, is when I went to seminary, I went from Portland. I went from Lake Oswego, and I had every thought and plan that I was going to seminary down in Berkeley, and I would come back to Oregon. And it didn't work out that way. I never thought I would come back to my hometown of St. Louis. And I never thought that I would be in parish ministry for 14 years. Before I had any idea that I would go to seminary, I was practicing law in Portland, well, in Salem, actually. I work for the Oregon Department of Justice. And I knew that being a lawyer was not going to be it for me for my lifelong career. And so I was trying to figure out what was next. And right after I started my job there, my dad got diagnosed with a brain tumor. He just fell down in the hallway at home one day, and they did the MRI and found the tumor, and in a week's time, he was transported from Quincy down to Firmin-Deloge, and we all flew in because he was going to have brain surgery, and they didn't know how that was going to go. They didn't know, if it didn't go well and they messed something up, he might not be the same person when he woke up. So in the midst of his hospital stay, and it was rough. He came out of the surgery fine, but this tumor was such that they got enough for a biopsy, but they really couldn't take much out. And things were just sort of hitting us, bam, 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 bam. And a hospital chaplain walked into the room. And I still remember her. Her calm, her kindness, her not being able to respond to our anxiety with peace and with confidence. And so that started me thinking, and a few years down the line, I actually enrolled in a master's program to get a master's in applied theology with a focus on pastoral care, thinking I would become a lay hospital chaplain. So I worked full-time, and I went to school, I think it was 2 weekends a month. And this is my master's thesis, Sharing God's Love, a response to the Christian chaplain's challenge of serving a religiously diverse population's spiritual needs. So this has been on my shelf since 2003. Just as a way to say this has been in the making for a long time. And I knew at some point that I would make this circle and go back to try chaplaincy. And just one of those funny God moments of the way things work, it was when I went to do my first unit of CPE, because you begin by doing just a single unit, most people. And so I had heard good things about the program at the Veterans Hospital in Portland. So I applied, and I got an interview. Horace Duke, I think was his name, the CPE educator. And I needed what they called an extended unit. So I couldn't go 5 days a week because I needed to keep working. So I was going to work part-time and do an extended unit part-time. So we have this very nice interview in his office up on what they call Pill Hill. And at the end, he says, well, he says, I'm really sorry. He said, I don't think I'm going to have an extended unit next fall. But I'm pretty sure that Roy Tribe down at the state hospital is going to have one. I think you should talk to him. So I leave, and I think to myself, the state hospital? I don't want to work at a mental hospital. I'll just wait. This is where I'm supposed to go. I know the VA is where I'm supposed to be. So I'll just wait. I can do it next year. I'll keep working. I'll do it next year. So next year rolls around. I send Horace a nice letter, and he says, oh, come on in, let's talk. So we talk. We have another nice interview, and he says, you know what? He says, I don't think I'm going to offer an extended unit in the fall. But you might want to talk to Roy Tribe at the state hospital. And so I go and I sit in my car in the garage, and I was like, okay, God, my plan is obviously not working. So I'm still not thrilled with the idea of working at the mental hospital. But I will chew on it. I will talk to my trusted folks about why I'm not so crazy about doing that. And we'll see how it goes. So I did some thinking, I did some praying, I did some talking, and I applied down at the state hospital. So I had an interview with the educator, Roy Tribe. Very tall, lanky, sort of cowboy-looking guy. Very slow talking, intense eyes and everything. So we had an interview with him and one of the doctors for about a half hour. And the doctor left, and so Roy and I kept talking, and he kept asking me questions. And at one point, he just stared at me dead on, and he said, I think God's calling you to be a priest. And it was just one of those moments, and I would describe it as like I was in a box, and the sides of the box fell away. And I started sobbing. And he spent the next, half hour sort of tending to me. So I knew that's where I was going to do my first unit of CPE. But I just walked out amazed and thinking, is this real? This is how it's going to work? Is this really it? Because people had said to me before, when they found out what I was studying, they were like, oh, are you going to be a priest? And I was like, oh, no, that's not my calling, But this was different. And so you never know. You can try to follow your plan. You can be meticulous about making your plan. But sometimes God has other plans and other ways of getting your attention. And I've got to say, working at the state hospital was an incredible experience. I was petrified my first day. I did all my clinical work at the sort of the satellite hospital in downtown Portland. And it was all people who had been civilly committed. All of the criminally committed patients were in Salem. But I remember when I left after my first day, and I walked outside of the locked doors back into the parking lot, and it was just like taking a deep breath of fresh air and thinking, Oh, my Lord. Um, I'm exhausted. Um, Probably just from anxiety most. Um, One thing about people in need of mental health services, they don't dress things up with niceties. So they just tell you exactly what they're thinking and what they think about you. And but those moments when you actually are communicating through the disease, and you meet in a way, it's really incredible. And the hardest part of CPE is not the patients, it's being in with your group, and reflecting on your work with the patients and what is it about me that gets in my own way. My hang-ups, my beliefs, my defense mechanisms that I've developed over a lifetime. Um, that's the hard part. But that's the part that makes you a better chaplain. And being able to sit with somebody in moments of uncertainty, sadness, trauma, and being able to be for me, I would say a godly presence, a presence in which we invite the holy to come in. Yeah, Jeff.
What, was the hospital under-resourced, from a care viewpoint, being a state facility?
I mean, I could only speak to what it was like in Portland. I'd say no. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with the staff. My mentor on site was the psychologist. He was awesome. There is one time when I mistakenly tried to interrupt someone's understanding with reality, which is kind of funny because I'm preaching about reality today. But trying to tell her that what she was afraid of wasn't really happening. And my mistake, and she started to hit me. And she kind of batted me around the head. And one of the nurse's aides looked out into the hall, and all of a sudden you could hear her screaming, "So-and-so's hitting the chaplain! So-and-so's hitting the chaplain!" And I was like, oh, okay. I had to walk to Lens Crafters and get my glasses fixed because they were all askew. I was fine. But I learned an important lesson about meeting people where they are and not trying to impose my reality on their reality. So it was a very worthwhile experience. Yeah.
So, at least for me, I often tell my life stories. I create a narrative for them and a theological narrative of what in your discernment vocation journey, how do you think of your time there in St. Louis?
I mean, I feel like St. Peter's has formed me as a priest. And I knew once I went to seminary that I wanted to begin in a parish because it felt like, I wanted that full experience. of priesthood. But like I said, I never thought I would stay in a parish this long. I certainly never thought I would stay here this long. And then it just kept getting better and better and more fun and a and you know, I fell in love with you guys. Yeah, I mean, they're just because pastoral care has I've been very fortunate that it's been able to be, you know, one time it was the biggest part of my workload, and with COVID and everything, that's kind of changed a bit, but it's still a big part. And that's not real usual for an associate. So I feel like I've gotten my grounding here, and found my feet, so that I go in with much more confidence. And you know, who knows? It may be I do the residency and I end up splitting my time between a parish and a hospital. Which is not a great thing because you always end up working a lot more than what you get paid for. And burning the candle at both ends, doing that kind of work doesn't work out very well. But you know, I've learned never to say never. So, could I end up in a parish again? Yeah, I could. So I'm trying to be less directed, or less directing of myself, I guess I should say. Because, you know, one thing about being at St. Peter's is, you know, having been through 3 rectors in the time I've been here, it's the same place, but it's a little bit of a different place, you know, each time. Being able to see that and being able to walk into oh my gosh, what's this guy gonna be like? What's it gonna be like to work with him? You know, I just had it down working with Jim Purdy. You know, I had it. I knew what my place was. And then Daniel Pearson, who's this guy? He was wonderful. And then here comes Luke. I was like, oh, I'm gonna work for a rector who's younger than me? How's that gonna work? And it was great. You know, and now here's David. And I'm having a great time with David. So it's taught me that you got to look with your eyes open, but open with hope and with possibility, of what can be, and what is coming can be just as good or better as what's been. Chris.
So you got 14 years worth of sermons.
Yes, I do.
Are you about publishing anything? They're all written down, right?
They are all written down. Yeah, some of them are even footnoted, because that's what law school drilled into me. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Not my words. Not seriously, but they're all on the computer. So maybe, maybe not all of them. uh, yeah, I'd say the first couple years we could definitely peel off. Yeah, and then get choosy. So I don't think we've officially announced, but June 26th is going to be my last Sunday. And then I will be hanging around the office for a couple of weeks trying to make files actually helpful for the person who takes my place, because I tend to not delete anything forever, and that's not helpful. So I'll be around during the week for a couple weeks. Maybe they'll hire somebody before I go, and we can have a little bit of time together. And then for the rest of the summer, I'll be mostly hanging out here with my mom, who's moving hopefully in about a month. Going down to Florida to celebrate my niece's graduation from law school. And if all goes well and my mom's house sells, instead of flying back, I will drive back with her and her dog. So I'll help her get settled, and we'll get to spend some time together with family, visit some friends, go out to Portland, find a place to live, all that fun stuff. Charlie.
Has the search already begun for your replacement?
Yeah, the ad was posted, I think, Jacqueline, has it been a couple weeks? 2? Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's out there. It's out there. You know, it probably didn't get a lot of attention by anybody during Holy Week. I guess maybe somebody was really unhappy where they are, might check every week, but so yeah, it's out there. We'll see what happens.
Big shoes to fill.
Oh, thank you. I'll leave them some of my black shoes. Anything else? We'll wrap 5 minutes early. Rector's Forum is back. Yes, Mighty.
I'm interested in do you look at records before you go in to visit these people to find out what their religious preferences are? Because I think sometimes when you go in the hospital, you kind of give a reference of what denomination or what church or...
I don't know how they do it there, if you would look at a patient's file before you went in to visit or not. But I think in most hospitals, the chaplain's office, they do usually ask you your faith affiliation when you are admitted. They'll usually collate that and give that information to the chaplain's office so they know. So, you know, perhaps if I'm the only Episcopal CPE student or chaplain, they would have me see Episcopal patients. But I don't know if they do it that way or not.
Do you think you'll ever cross religions? Meaning that maybe there isn't a Catholic chaplain, would you in turn be asked to visit that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would have very little to do if I only visited Episcopal patients. So yeah, I'll visit everybody. And on campus, there's a children's hospital, there's a burn hospital. The they told me in the interview, the chaplains and the residents are in the emergency room for traumas. I think the burn hospital will probably be the hardest for me, just because I had a cousin who died in a fire. So I think that will dredge things up, and that'll be one of the things I get to work on in group. So. All right. Well, if you came to 8, thanks for staying. And if you came for 10:30, I'll see you upstairs. You're welcome.